Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association monthly meeting. We have a very, very exciting night tonight. We have a full agenda, so I'm glad you guys tuned in on time. This debate was supposed to be moderated by Phil Schuman, who got called away on another assignment. And so we're very, very fortunate to have Jill Stewart do the moderation tonight. Jill has been part of the Los Angeles news scene for years and years and years. For those of you who do not know her, she was the governmental reporter for the Los Angeles Times for about 6 years. She has appeared on hundreds of different live TV shows, analyzing political races, ballot measures, and government policies. She was the editor for 9 years for LA Weekly magazine, and she is now the editor of the Los Angeles Daily News. So we're very excited, and it's our honor to have her doing the moderation tonight. So again, tonight we've got Lindsey Horvath and Bob Hertzberg, who are both competing to be our next supervisors representing your districts. So with that being said, I'd like for the different board members to do the self-introductions. And again, I'm Matt. I'm the president of Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association. And next we have our vice president. Bob, you're muted.
This is Bob Anderson. I'm vice president and chair of the Transportation Committee.
Hi, everybody. I'm Joel Sphere. I'm involved with community outreach.
Hi, everybody. Tom Glick, board member, chair of the Land Use and Planning Committee.
Hi, John Eisen, treasurer of the association.
Maria Pavlou-Calvin, I chair the legislative committee.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nancy Segoyan, membership chair. Want to welcome everyone. If you're not a member of SOHA, we encourage you to join. We are 100% member supported. So just go to our website, soha914.com, and click on Join SOHA and join us and help us obtain the best outcomes for our community. Thanks.
Good evening, folks. I'm Jay Weitzler. I'm secretary of the organization and the liaison to the Buckley School and to the Hillside Federation.
Okay, great. Thank you, board. So first up, we have a couple of reports from our senior lead officers. So you guys want to see who wants to go up first?
I'll go up, Matt. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Officer Soldana. I'm the senior lead officer for the southern portion of Sherman Oaks. I cover everything south of Ventura towards Mulholland, between Coldwater Canyon and Sepulveda. One of our main things right now that I've been seeing a huge uptick is our burglaries. We had a few break-ins on Ventura Boulevard and some residential burglaries. These burglaries have most of the burglaries that happen on Ventura Boulevard is west of Van Nuys towards Sepulveda. So everything west of Van Nuys towards Sepulveda, we've been getting a lot of activity there. And also we had one hot prowl, which was a suspect entered a residence when the victim was inside the house. The victim did exit the house and call the police, and the suspect got away. But just make sure you keep your house well lit and have somehow notify yourself that you're inside the house, or somehow if somebody's knocking, make yourself known. You don't have to open the door, but at least make yourself known. That's all I have right now. If you have any questions, I'll give it to Officer Romo.
Thank you, Saldana. Senior Lead Officer Romo, I cover the northern part of Sherman Oaks. I just want to briefly mention my crime stats. For my violent crimes, I am up 30%, and property crime is down. It's actually a little bit slightly up 4%. Any particular crime questions, please contact me at my email 40229@lapd.online or cell phone 818-731-2563. I want to briefly mention we are having a Faith and Blue event on October 7th at 6 p.m. It's going to be in front of the police station. We're going to walk from Van Nuys to Minoan and back. This is for all religious organizations. Everyone is welcome. Let's get to know each other. October 7th. We're also having a huge recruitment October 8th at Valley College at 8 in the morning. If you're interested in joining LAPD, please show up at 8 a.m. We are having the test on site, and hopefully you get to work with us. Any questions, please contact me. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. I have a question for you, Jose. Can you unmute your mic again? So yesterday, my wife and I were walking on Ventura Boulevard, and we witnessed something that looked like, it was very suspicious. It looked like a homeless 25-year-old person coming down in one of those little rented scooters from Ventura Boulevard, south of the boulevard, blew through a stop sign, went onto Ventura Boulevard with a big bag, a big, huge knapsack kind of a deal, wearing a face mask, a hoodie. Then we both noticed that. And then a few blocks later, as we were walking down, we see him and two other individuals about the same age sitting on the street in front of the antique mall, going through the bag, and there's jewelry, there's clothes, there's a whole bunch of stuff. It looked like it was they just burglarized a home. So the first thing that I did was I called the Van Nuys police station, because this is clearly not an emergency. There was no life being threatened. There was nothing, and I'm not going to confront these guys. So I called the non-emergency number, the 374-9500 number. And after going through the different menu of choices, I wanted to speak to the desk officer. It put me through a voice message. So I have the luxury of having your phone number and Officer Romero's phone number. And both of you guys were not, didn't pick up at the time, which I don't expect you to be there 24/7. But what does the audience, what do members do when they experience something like that and they want to report a crime, but it's a non-emergency, but it does need more attention than waiting for a return phone call the next day or two?
That's a good question, Matt. Thank you. And first of all, never call the police station for non-emergency. The 374-9500 is that phone is probably not answered. That's not the correct number to call. The correct number to call is 877-ASK-LAPD. That's 877-275-5273. That goes connected directly to our non-emergency number, and we have operators who will dispatch units. We're not equipped here at Van Nuys Station to dispatch units. So
Okay.
Those numbers.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's encouraging. Okay, next up we have Andy Solomon, who is our city attorney. He works in the neighborhood prosecutor's office. Andy, what do you have for us?
Hi, everyone. My name is Andy Solomon. I am the neighborhood prosecutor from the city attorney's office. So I deal with a lot of chronic issues. I work with the senior lead officers. I work with a lot of you guys. I work with the community. I work with CD4 and anyone who would work with me. Right now, there's been a couple of things that I've been working on. Ventura and Stern has been a very major concern for us. I've been working with LAPD, Council District 4, and DMH in some ways, but directly I've been working with CD4 and LAPD. We've been getting some progress. We're still working on more. We have some transients there that are attracting the kind of attention that we don't want in anyone's neighborhood, really. The other issue I've been working on is I've been talking to a lot of the businesses on the boulevard. Some of you have called me directly or indirectly. Some of you have represented your concerns through this organization, through John Eisen, and have called, he's called me and asked a lot of questions about the process of what I can do to help situations. Also just sharing information with me, things that you're seeing out there and you have concerns about. And I'm able to address those things both in my office and in my partner agencies, so LAPD, CD4, whomever. I encourage you guys to reach out to me, or if you don't want to reach out to me directly, use SOHA. Ask any of the board members here to reach out to me. They all have my number, they have my email. I respond, we set up times to call, and I hear your concerns and address them. The best way to reach me directly, if you want to reach me directly, is andy.solomon@lacity.org. That's SOLIMAN. And even if you're not sure if I'm the right person to reach out to me. I'll direct you to the right person.
Great. Thank you, Andy. Thanks for everything you do. Elisa Schwartz is next up. She's the field deputy for Nazarian.
Hi, everybody. I know I have a minute, so I'll be fast. We have two events that I'd like to talk about. The first event is early in October. It is a virtual women's wellness workshop. It's self-defense for the soul. And there are 2 dates to choose from. We have Saturday, October 1st or Sunday, October 2nd. The webinars will begin at 10 a.m. I can put our assembly member main email address in the chat. And if anybody would like to RSVP, we would very much like to have you attend. And then there is an in-person event. It is at the end of October. It is Saturday, October 22nd or Sunday, October 23rd from 1:30 to 3:30. And this is a free women's self-defense class with Jean Morrison. The event location is TBD, but that again is October 22nd or 23rd. And the first event is October 1st or 2nd, and that is virtual. And I will put the email address to RSVP in the chat. Hopefully I got it in under a minute. Thanks, everybody.
You went a little over, but that's okay. Good information. Thank you. Ryan, are you on? I didn't see you on.
Yeah, I'm here, Matt.
Awesome. Thank you. So Ryan is the Sherman Oaks field deputy for our council member. What do you have for us, Ryan?
Perfect. Thank you, Matt. Hi, everyone. Ryan Ahari, Sherman Oaks field deputy for Councilmember Nithya Raman in the wonderful 4th Council District on LA City Council. I wanted to let you all know that we are partnering with the Neighborhood Council in Sherman Oaks. Their 20th anniversary, really big deal, 2 decades of neighborhood work, is going to be on October 29th. And we are partnering with them on a celebration at Van Nuys Sherman Oaks Park. Starting at 5:30, there's going to be entertainment, food, a lot of fun, and there will be a movie. So please come and join us, meet your neighborhood council, and see the great work they've done for the last 20 years. I wanted to let everyone that the Department of Transportation speed hump application is now open. There was a brief pause during COVID, but on October 6th at 9 a.m., you can go onto the LADOT website and request a speed hump for your neighborhood. Lastly, I wanted to mention homeless count numbers came out, and I wanted to let everyone know the CD4 saw unsheltered homelessness go down by about 7% and sheltered homelessness go up by about 163%, in contrast to a steady and high year-over-year growth from 2016 to 2020. That's my 1 minute. If you need to contact me, call or text 213-424-2412. You can also email me at ryan.ahari@lacity.org if I can help you with anything at the LA City level. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Ryan, what is the date of the Neighborhood Council celebration at the park? Hello? You froze. What's the
October 29th.
Okay, great. Thank you. Maria, you have a committee report you'd like to talk about?
I do, thanks. All of you know that our group has kept a close eye on state housing bills because they affect all of us. But we're looking locally, and we have concerns about the community plan updates that the city is currently working on that will rezone all our communities to accommodate more housing to meet state mandates. By using so-called overlays, the city can add more density to our neighborhoods without technically changing the zoning. These overlays would allow 5 to 7-story apartment buildings in our single family and our low density multifamily neighborhoods. As a group, we found there's enough capacity in Sherman Oaks on our commercial corridors to meet our state quotas without upzoning our residential neighborhoods. But we must convince Councilmember Raman to remove these overlays. The city planners working on our community plan support our solutions. Sherman Oaks, Encino, and Studio City have worked together and sent council office detailed maps showing how we can meet our housing mandate. We have literally done the work for them, and we met the goal. We have sent Councilmember Raman a joint letter asking for her support to move the overlays. We're saying yes to housing and no to bad planning that will ruin our neighborhoods. So we should hear in about a week, and that's my report.
Great, thank you. And this was actually a historic position paper for the communities, 3 communities, Sherman Oaks, Studio City, and Encino. This was the participation of the Homeowners, the Neighborhood Council, and the chambers. So it's great work. Thank you, Maria, for that. And thank you for your report. Bob, you've got a report?
Yes, sir.
You're up, Bob.
I am. Little Zoom glitch. Hi, everyone. I'm Bob Anderson, talking about the Metro Sepulveda Transit Corridor Project. Basically, Metro is really screwing up the Sepulveda Transit Project through the past. They withhold information from the public, and they, at June's public meeting, Metro finally admitted they don't consider affordability when they select a concept, like trying to buy a $4 million house if you have a $800,000 mortgage. The result, every Metro project is grossly over budget and way behind schedule. Metro's Southeast LA project will cost 4 times its budget, maybe requiring a shorter line that misses poorer communities in LA. For the Sepulveda Pass, Metro is focusing on subways that cost 3 to 4 times more than budget and ignoring viable, affordable monorails. If Metro selects subway, the valley will get, at best, noisy elevated trains above Sepulveda Boulevard, against the wishes of residents and businesses, an unaffordable, delay-prone alternative that will destroy our community. It will. SOHA is working with the Bel Air Association to fix Metro's lack of transparency, lack of honesty, and lack of competence. We'll keep you posted.
Thank you, Bob. And our last committee report is Larry Slade. Larry?
Yes, thank you, Matt. Okay, I appreciate that. I have the honor of being the chair of the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association Homelessness Committee. And we formed a committee. We're very active at this point. I want to give a quick shout out to Tom Glick and Tom Eisen, who are on the committee, and members of the SOHA board, Leslie Elkin, Craig Nizick, Ryan Muckenthaler, and Sean Kurzweil. We're active in the process of trying to figure out how to proactively address the problems of homelessness that are vexing homeowners and business owners in particular. And we've got a focus on a series of initiatives which we're going to start working on now. One is to persuade the Care Court, which is legislation that just passed, to establish a court for the seriously mentally ill, can be taken into court and processed through a special process that'll last many, many months. We want that implemented earlier in Los Angeles. It's now scheduled not to be implemented until the end of 2024. We want to move that up and be part of the initial pilot program. We have members of the committee working on fostering cooperation with law enforcement to facilitate the maximum enforcement permissible by law against homeless encroachments on neighborhoods and businesses. We're working to cultivate relationships with some of the hot new restaurants and pubs in Sherman Oaks. There's a lot of activity there, and those businesses are hopefully interested in helping us with this. We're going to be working on creating a social media presence with regard to posting in Nextdoor and perhaps on Facebook with regard to this as well. We're also exploring the possibility of having fundraising and having a private security force to supplement all of the enforcement personnel that exists now to provide extra pressure in Sherman Oaks to create a more safe space for residents and businesses.
Great. Thank you very much, Larry. Thanks for all the work that you and your committee are doing. It's great. Okay, so that gives our community updates. We're going to go ahead and jump in. Before I jump in, though, I saw one person had sent in a question on our Q&A that they wanted Andy Solomon's email again. So let me repeat it. It's Andy, A-N-D-Y, Solomon, S-O-L-I-M-A-N, @lacity.org. So, okay, so we're going to go ahead and jump in. I'm going to turn the mic over to Jill Stewart. Again, we're very excited to have Jill here. Hello, Bob. Hello, Lindsey. We're excited to hear from you guys tonight. Your mic is, there you go. Okay, Jill, you got the baton.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me? Okay, great. And this is the first question to you too. Nice to see you both. From Larry Slade. If
They
I
get
can-
3 minutes to introduce themselves first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So we're going to, it is alphabetical. You both have H last names, but he's got HE. So Bob, you want to go ahead and start off with your 3-minute introduction?
Yeah, thank you so much, Matt. I appreciate it. And there's so many of my friends. Most people here know me. I've been a member of this association for, I think, 30 years. And I just want to tip my hat to Mr. Close and Sally and his extraordinary leadership and all the things that we did together on protecting the valley, fighting for the valley, planting trees on Ventura Boulevard. And as I engage in this new endeavor dealing with the county, I think for purposes of us at the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association, I don't think I have to go very far to be able to explain my responsiveness and my fighting for our community in a very deep way. I now live in Van Nuys, a little away from the Chandler house that I have there on Chandler and Hazeltine. But, you know, as a speaker and brought over $1 billion of resources, whether it was the Orange Line or the Valley Performing Arts Center, and all the things to 38 new schools in the San Fernando Valley, updating schools and things like that. And I just want to share that this is a hard decision for me to run for this office. I was out, I was done, I'd written a statement, and I just felt a real sense of responsibility to serve. I'm not running for another office. I'm promising here that I will never run for another office. I'm not out there calculating where the votes are here or there. I am who I am. I'm taking a ton of votes. I've taken leadership as an executive in the legislative branch, as well as a business person all across the globe, in working in a number of different endeavors. And I just been frustrated. But, you know, I saw the thing on local level. We talk about the homeless list, but it's unbelievable. My head's exploding that nothing's happened. No one's taking responsibility. No one's legally obligated. And example after example, which I'll talk about during this discussion, of where the county's failing. In the state, we write checks. And you know, this idea that the state just writes checks, it's not true. The county is a subdivision of the state. It provides services. There's a deep partnership, a deep understanding that's necessary that those who work here, Maria and Jill has seen it, a whole host of others over the years, and how that's so important to the operation of services, to protect people, to make sure that the money that we're spending is being spent appropriately, and that the law is written in a way that's fair and equitable and makes people safe in their homes. So a lot of talk about, but you know, I don't need to, from the days with Jules there, I think, I don't know how many years you've been going to Matt's truck there in front of Gelson's to bring those toys and all the various things, to be a deep supporter. And I think you know who I am and what my character is. We don't always agree on everything, but I always am available, I'm accessible, and engage deeply and do my homework. And I'm serious public servant. It's the reason why I'm doing this. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lindsey Horvath. I am a city council member and small business owner. Very honored to be here with you tonight, and I appreciate you hosting this forum and all the work that it takes to put on something like this. So thank you very much. I got into this race with a sense of urgency on the issues that are top of mind for people, no matter where I go in the district: homelessness and housing and our services. How do we keep people safe? How do we get people back to work and good jobs that afford themselves and their families a good quality of life? How do we deal with the existential threat of climate change and its impact that we see in our communities? All of this work is what I have been focused on as a local leader, championing local control in my own community, as well as president of California Contract Cities Association, which is the association of cities that contract for services, not only with LA County, but throughout the region. And I have served on the board of California League of Cities, now Cal Cities, as well as the National League of Cities, and president of Women in Municipal Government. So my experience ranges from my own community to the entire country, but always focused at the local level and protecting local control. I believe that we need to make the decisions that are best for our communities, informed by neighbors, by our neighborhoods, and through building very strong, diverse coalitions that are reflective of the diversity of the district I intend to serve and the diversity of this county. It's important that we're bringing new ideas and new thinking and bringing change, because that's what's needed in this time of crisis. People are frustrated. They are angry with the status quo, and we need to change it. And I have the experience on the ground delivering real results in my own community, getting people off the streets into housing services or both, getting people the kind of care that they need, and protecting people who need it the most. Our county is the social safety net for all of our communities. We need to connect it to our local communities, connect the county services with the cities, and actually deliver for residents. I have a track record of doing that. I have a track record of delivering, working at the local level to make great change, and leading my community, leading all of our communities contracting in the county during a time of crisis. I saw where the county met the moment. I saw where it simply failed, and I am prepared to deliver the change that we wish to see in our region. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think I'm about to start asking the questions, so I'll just give a couple real small little rules here. One is that a lot of these are very smart, in-depth kinds of questions, so bear with me while I read them. And the second is that what I'll have you do, please, is go back. First, Bob will be the first person to answer with the first question. And then in the second question, Lindsey, if you will go first, and go back and forth like that. So each one of you every other time gets to go first. Okay. All right. So here's Larry Slade. Complicated question. One of the most profound impacts of homelessness in Sherman Oaks is felt by our business owners. One of the biggest challenges is impact on their businesses caused by the homeless who suffer from mental illness. It is our understanding that there is a division of responsibility between the county and the city on the mental health issue. The county is mental health oriented, and the homeless issue is the city's issue. That's how we see it. We understand that this separation of powers, in quotes, separation of powers, is rendering our efforts to address homelessness much more challenging. What will you do to fix it? That's to you first, Bob.
Yeah. First, I want to just start out with Larry. I saw you on Channel 11. You know, the Blue Dog Beer Cafe. I was out and also met with Dragonfly some weeks ago. It is absolutely a moral crisis. You can't take an intellectual view to this. You know, I saw the thing when it says, you gotta die, you gotta die. It happened to me where these folks surrounded my car at a Pride Parade and they said, we're not just gonna throw you out of office, we're gonna cut your head off. It's really a bad thing. And the notion, we have to start with that premise that you don't have a right to live on this, to die on the street. And the idea of the public safety risk, the public health risk, the throw in the feces and all of that stuff. It's really important that elected officials understand that, because right now there's this attitude that somehow that's not, that's somehow okay. The city council went and did an ordinance, and I completely support it, that says 500-foot setback for schools. Kids are walking over feces, dead bodies, RVs on fire, horrible. You know, Sherman Oaks Elementary, Riverside School, my kid, my daughter at Discovery on, you know, here in the community, all of this stuff. So I start with that framework, number one. Number two, as Speaker of the Assembly, I have dealt with the most complex problems and had to manage them. Democrats, Republicans, people all over the state, not a city of 1.9 square miles with 38 homeless people that moved them to Beverly Hills, because now their numbers are down, but Beverly Hills numbers are 200. It's a regional approach. And the reason that gets me so angry and that motivates me to run for this office beyond the words of urgency is that there is no legal obligation. This finger pointing stuff, the county puts a blue ribbon commission together. City says we're not participating. That's the city of LA. It should be the city of Malibu. It should be the city of Long Beach. It should be the city of Santa Monica. It should be a regional approach. This notion that, okay, however nice that is, that one small city says, well, I'm following the rules and I move something to another city, is not solving the problem. Two, there is $2 billion sitting in casherini that we have in the bank for mental health that they're not spending. And I've asked so many people at the county, like, what's going on? And the attitude is, well, we don't know if it's a dedicated revenue stream and it's funding. Listen to this. Listen to this. This is how ugly it is and how stupid the egos are of the operation. We gave $116 million in cash in May 30th, 2019 from the state for a pilot project in Hollywood, based upon a project in Italy. That's supposed to be great. I don't know if it is or not, but it's 116 million to try to deal with mental health. Guess what? The county's done nothing. I talked to one of the supervisors, and the supervisor says to me, well, it's not my district. It's in
Thank you.
Well, that seemed like more than a minute to me, but anyway, very interesting. Lindsay, can you please answer the same question? Would you like me to read it again?
No, I got it. Thank you very much. I appreciate the question because I think it's the issue that's top of mind for everybody. And I too share the frustration that was expressed in the recent report that was on television. And I thank you for speaking up about the experience that you've had, because it is by identifying these issues that we're going to solve them. And we will do that together. It's unfortunate that my opponent continues to belittle my work in my community because it's actually delivered results. And that's why I am the only candidate in this race prepared to deliver results on this very issue. In my community, we have a plan that has delivered year after year about an 80% success rate, getting people off the streets into housing, services, or both. That includes mental health crisis, that includes drug addiction treatment and recovery. We provide them transportation, connect them with housing and care, whether that's service that we provide in our local community, in our city, or whether that service that is contracted with a service provider, or whether that's a service that the county provides. We have street teams that go out every day of the week to connect people to these services. And that's really what I see as most missing from the current experience of other communities. We don't just push people over the boundaries. We actually track them through the systems where we're able to connect them to service and housing, and make sure that they stay in a system of care so they succeed in getting off the streets. We also have an inclusionary housing policy that creates housing options in our own community to make sure that there are housing options for everyone to be able to afford to live in our community. But we have to push and create more options, and we have to connect people to the services that they need the most. We have done that successfully, and I have the experience of doing it. We contract with services that also contract with the county, so we know this program is scalable, it is successful. And just a handful of years ago, we met with county leaders to ask what more we could be doing, because we've seen the impact on our streets. And they said, actually, we need to be doing what you're doing, which is nice to have a pat on the back, but incredibly frustrating to see that 4 years later, they're still not doing what we've been doing. I'm prepared to lead. I have a plan to do it, and I'm ready to deliver the results because I share your frustration. It's gone on too long, and we got to have change.
Okay, thank you very much. And now I'm going to read the second question, and Lindsay goes first this time. And this is from Maria Calban, an amazing woman. Los Angeles Homeless Service Authority, or LAHSA, was created as a joint power authority by the supervisors, LA Mayor and LA City Council, with an annual budget of $800 million. Last week, the City Council filed a motion for a report to be generated regarding the governance structure of LAHSA and how might the city increase direct oversight over homeless outreach, and also requested a strategy for the city to transition to its own system of coordinated homeless services. What is your opinion, Lindsay, on such a move? Should LAHSA be reformed or reorganized, or should the city take over?
Please limit your answer to 1 minute, Lindsay, and Bob too.
I'll do my best. If you can help me watch that minute. I would love to see LAHSA reformed. In fact, I've spoken with county council about that possibility. They tell me that LAHSA has to exist because it came out of a court decision. Actually, it wasn't a voluntary thing, it was court directed. And so in order for that, if that is in fact the case that we need it to continue, I would like to either scale it back or reconstitute it with elected officials, service providers, and people with lived experience of homelessness to ensure that LAHSA is actually delivering the results that people expect. It should be meeting weekly and publicly noticed meetings so people understand where resources are being spent, to what end, and those resources can be redirected in real time, not 6 months to a year from now if they're being spent on something that isn't actually helping to solve the problem. We need to hold our elected officials accountable. And that's why I think elected officials like the mayor, like the chair of the board, need to be on this body. So rather than pointing at bureaucrats to solve the problem, we have to stop the finger pointing back and forth and take responsibility for this issue.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, thank you. No, look, I don't agree with the analysis on the court order. The court order is a limited thing in time and history based upon the city, which is 40% of the county, and there's 87 other cities. You have to look regionally. When I was speaker, I created the Commission on Regionalism. You can't have the Sherman Oaks Air Pollution Authority, just like you can't have one city and another city looking at something like this. So I appreciate my opponent now adopting my position that I've taken with respect to having elected officials, because there has to be, the buck stops to stop with the politicians. It can't be everybody else. That's what I've said. I've talked about putting pilot project together to do that in coordination with the state, to create the legal authority to do that, so people are held accountable. There's real deliverables, there's real transparency, and it's not an agency. It has to be a county-wide issue, kind of like the Metro, the MTA, and how that's organized. 59 seconds.
Awesome. Okay, the next question is from John Eisen. I'm sorry if I mispronounced anybody's names. Senate Bill 1338, the CARE Court Program, was signed into law last week. 7 counties must implement the program by October 1st, 2023, while the remainder of the counties, including Los Angeles County, are given until December 1st of 2024. Why would Los Angeles County, with the most need, not be required to implement the program for over 2 years from now? Would you support beginning the program on a limited trial basis even earlier for those who are most in need?
Yeah, this is a pattern what LA does. It did it on voting. It's done it 100 times that I've been around. Oh, we're not prepared. I was so angry at the last minute when they decided to change it. The supervisor said, oh, we can't do it. Of course they should have it. Of course we should start it. I'm the co-author of that measure. We need to set up a plan right now to train judges. We put $1 billion in to train mental health professionals, so that the idea behind the care courts is that you start with mental health professionals on the streets, not just police officers. Then you have the care courts. You've got to do the transitional housing, but it's essential. And absolutely, I already talked to the governor about it, and I've talked to others about it, to be able to go back to the legislature to move this forward. And I would put this, quite frankly, as part of a pilot project. And the reason I say pilot projects is, you can talk about the law, but what happens in Fresno or Imperial County is very different, and how to get the votes. And that's what I know how to do, what I did in the Assembly, as Speaker in the Senate, as Majority Leader. 58 seconds.
Lindsey?
Thank you. We need action now. That's why I authored in my own community the contract with the Sheriff's Department's mental health evaluation team to go out on the streets now and lead with services and care, paired with a deputy for safety, to ensure that people are getting the treatment and care that they need and getting placed into care rather than being jailed simply for being unhoused. That's the first step, as was just indicated. We're already doing that in our community, and I've created the ability for every community to contract for that service with LA County Sheriff's Department and within LA County. We just have to expand the resources to invest in those services and care to make sure that we have the mental health professionals who are actually out on the streets. One of the things highlighted in the report that came out just yesterday is that there aren't enough teams. There's only one for the entire region right now in Sherman Oaks. So we need to make sure that we significantly expand those teams, invest in the services and care that will help people get off the streets. Yes, we'd love to implement the care courts plan sooner, so long as it respects people's rights, of course. But to make sure that it gets implemented correctly, we have to make sure that people have the proper training and that the system is set up to serve people.
All right, thank you. This next question, it's kind of, you can read it different ways, and I don't know which way, so I'm leaving it up to you to decide what Ellen Gregson is asking. She says, the city recently passed LA Ordinance 41.18, which makes it illegal for people to live or camp on the street within 500 feet of a school. Does the county supervisor have any role to play in fixing this problem? And if so, what? Go ahead.
Is it Hertzberg? I lost count. Is it Hertzberg or is it Horvath? Who's up next?
I think I'm next.
Okay, I'm sorry. Apologize.
No, you're fine. So it is a city ordinance. As I said, I support local control, and I think that cities have to have the ability to pass ordinances that they think are best. What I think is missing from 4118 is what happens to people who are moved from these spaces. Certainly, we want to make sure that we're protecting our public places. We shouldn't let our sidewalks become de facto homeless shelters. We also need to make sure that these people get the care and support that they need. And so I think that's the piece that's missing. And that's the piece that the county can deliver, whether it's mental health, whether it's drug treatment, whether it's housing and wraparound services. That's the role that the county can play in making sure that what is intended to keep our public spaces safe actually keeps all people safe. And I'm prepared to do that.
Thank you. Bob?
Yeah, this is one of the areas I think that distinguishes our two candidacies. You know, a lot of things we want to do, but this is an area where I absolutely agree with 4118. I think that your children and your grandchildren going to school after walking over people, and it's only a 500-foot setback. I'm sorry, there's 69,000 people supposedly in Calais County who are homeless, and there's 10 million people. And if we can't protect our kids and our grandkids at Sherman Oaks Elementary, at Riverside Elementary School, and all the places in between, it's just not right. I don't want to expose my kids to that stuff. So no, I strongly support it. I would support it throughout the county, working with other jurisdictions. And I think it's the right thing to do. And it's a minor inconvenience. And yet nobody has a right to die on the street. And my goal is to get people off the streets as fast as possible.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to switch a little bit here to some transportation and transit questions. Lindsey or Bob, you'll be the first to answer. And this is from Bob Anderson. He says, at the latest public meeting in June, Metro admitted that they are not considering affordability in their selection of the preferred alternative concept for the Sepulveda Pass Rapid Transit Project to the west side. Metro has only about 7.5 billion available for the project. The monorail alternatives cost about 7 billion, while the subway alternatives cost at least $20 billion.
28.
3 times as much, and maybe a lot more, Bob says. Okay, Metro is studying alternatives that they can never afford. So his question is, I'm going to jump over the swear words there, Bob. They're not really swear words, I'm kidding him. I'm switching, the question itself. As supervisor, will you be a Metro board? You will be a Metro board member. What do you commit to do to bring some common sense, fiscal responsibility, sensible collaboration, and real transparency into Metro? Bob.
Yeah, I have never seen Bob Anderson, Mr. Cool and collected nuclear engineer, so angry. I've seen others, but I've never seen him so angry. And he's right. He's 100% right. And let me tell you what the problem is. It's a management problem. The inmates are running the asylum. The supervisors and the other people that are on the Metro board are not holding them accountable. How in a million years do you say, oh, I'm not going to consider the costs, but then here's alternative proposals? As I like to say in Yiddish, a lochenko. You got a hole in your head. It's crazy. There's basic numbers, noise tests, timeline tests. You know, what is the purpose of Metro? It's to get people safely from point A to point B as quickly as possible. Why don't you have 2 lines? Why do you have 14 stops? None of those questions are being answered. And it's really a problem where the supervisor here, I had to go and file, hundreds of thousands of emails and full page ads to get her attention to put a line for kids to come to Northridge. So, it's been a real problem, and you're going to see me focus on management, and engage to basically make sure there's a causal connection so that when you're trying to solve a problem, how do you get to goal? Sorry, I'm a little bit over.
Okay, Lindsey.
I'll bring the experience that I've had working on the Crenshaw Northern Extension to my experience in this seat. I personally attended over 300 community meetings to bring communities together from the South Bay to the Valley to gather community support and make sure that we're focused on one alignment, to stop spending money on alignments that don't make sense in serving a community and get community consensus, listening to the problems and concerns that people have. And I personally attended these meetings. I didn't just send staff to report back. That kind of attention to detail, personal commitment, and listening to people in their communities so we can solve problems together has allowed us to get to a locally preferred route that has agreement, that has support, will save us time and money, And that's exactly the kind of responsibility we need on the Sepulveda line. It's the kind of responsibility we need throughout Metro. And I'm prepared to bring that experience to the seat.
Okay, here's a little bit more detailed but short question from Charles Baker. And this goes to you, Lindsey. Which of the 6 alternative Metro designs do you believe would be best for Sherman Oaks? And what action would you take to secure additional funding required to support its construction?
I don't think any of the alignments are picked yet. I don't think any of the alignments are ready, and that's especially because they haven't been informed by enough community input. I've listened in on the community meetings for the Sepulveda line, and to say that they have been community engagement is a joke. We need to make sure that people are actually able to ask questions and get real answers. We need to make sure that people are able to offer informed input into this process. And I don't think any of the current alignments reflect that that understanding from any of the communities that are intended to be served. So we have to make sure that we're meeting people where they are in their neighborhoods. I'm going to do exactly what I did for my own community and throughout the region on this alignment to make sure that we're delivering an alignment that people can agree on and we bring people together. That's what this alignment deserves. And we need to keep options on the table in order to make sure that we do that.
Thank you. Bob?
Yeah, I agree with my opponent's analysis with respect to community involvement, but I think it misses the point about what leadership's about, what management's about. You know, before you get to listen to what's happening in a community, you have to work with staff, give direction so they don't do the boneheaded stuff that they're doing, making sure you get answers to questions that then can inform the community decisions. Because right now, the way it works, look, under the California Environmental Quality Law, you have to put options out on the table, and then you get to look at the different options. We did this with the high-speed rail. I've seen it in many other instances that I've been involved. We did it with the Orange Line to some extent. And so it's just a lot of a noise, and it requires the initial focus and management skills. I have chaired boards and I've been CEOs of companies and done stuff where I've certainly been involved with Metro in many, many ways. But I think it's a failure of leadership. And even now, the current supervisor, it's a complete failure of leadership not to engage in this larger discussion.
So Bob, did you say that you don't like any of the alternatives, or?
Yeah, what I said is I just don't think you have enough information to make a determination in any of them. I think it's just a bunch of legal mumbo jumbo.
Very good. Okay, thank you. Okay, so this next question goes to Bob from Jeff Calban, the husband of the fabulous Maria Calban. Okay, so, here's the question. Recently passed state laws and local ordinances do away with parking criteria in housing developments. There is not enough street parking. People will not have ready access to their cars. Currently, there is no viable alternative. The Valley does not have a mass transit system that offers enough routes and service to get people efficiently to and from work, schools, or shopping. As a member of the Metro Board, you will have the power to suggest policy. What do you propose for resolving daily transit needs for Valley residents?
Parking, you got to have more parking in the near term. Look, these are short-term decisions. You could have some street designated parking, and as you created alternatives, whether they're transit-oriented development, like over the 10,000 units that we now have surrounding the Orange Line, but you just can't make unilateral decisions. I know Jeff knows this, and Maria knows this, and you know, some of this stuff is just boneheaded, and I don't agree. So my sense is that you've got to, because again, what are we trying to do? We're trying to manage toward a goal. You can't just all of a sudden stop and say, this is what we're going to do. Like when I fought against SB 50, as Maria well knows, because they said, oh, we're going to add 14 units into people's homes. It just doesn't work. You can't destroy neighborhoods like that. So you've got to have parking in the near term. And as we evolve, we can make changes.
Okay, very good. Lindsey?
I think the question isn't about where we house cars, it's about how we move people throughout the region. And I think we need to create transit solutions that actually do that. We need to make sure that our bus lines that exist are expanded, that they run on time, that they actually move, and that they get people where they need to go in a way that is reliable so they can use them to get to work, to get to healthcare destinations. And we need to make sure that there are stops that provide shade, that provide benches, and improve the user experience. We also have to make sure that people feel safe on these forms of transportation, and making sure that we're improving the quality of safety is another way that will encourage people to use transportation options. Metro will provide some of those options. The city of LA will provide some of those options as well, whether it's the Dash Line or other services. We need to connect in first mile, last mile through biking and other modes of transportation. And we should be connecting transportation to development to ensure that new housing along our commercial corridors actually provides transportation for people to not have to house their cars, but instead use and encourage public transportation to get to where they need to go.
Okay, very good. And then Lindsay, you'll be up for the next question first. Let's see here. It's from Linda Keller. She says, Metro ridership has been hurt by the public's perception that it is unsafe to ride the trains and to wait in the underground stations. Many large cities throughout the world have commercial retail in their underground stations to add life and convenience to what can feel like a pretty lonely place. But Metro claims that they would not consider retail outlets unless the board asked them to. As a Metro board member, would you see any value in this idea?
In the idea of retail outlets?
Yes, businesses underground.
Well, I think that what we really need to do is help people feel safe on transportation. And I think the safety aspect isn't about walking to the transportation. It's about making sure that the rider's experience is safe. And so the management of Metro operators have endorsed me in this race because they know I'm committed to actually changing that reality and keeping people safe on transportation.
Okay, thank you. And Bob, your answer?
Yeah, I love the idea. All across the world, this has been it helps create more activity. People in the bento boxes in Japan and in London and all across the world. It, in fact, helps with safety. I completely agree. It also creates a revenue stream because you can rent this stuff like we do at the airport. I love the idea, and you create more accessibility, and it's not so, more activity, and people can stop off and get some food on the way to work and stuff. And I do think it contributes to the larger issue. Of course, we all agree that you need officers and you don't have homeless people, and that the dirty buses and all the trains and all those things are necessary. But the core of the question is these ideas, and I think they're really, really good. And I like it a lot. And I think it creates commerce and money. And anytime you can create an alternative revenue stream to avoid taxes is a smart thing in my judgment.
Thank you very much. Okay. You'll be answering the next question, Bob, from Jim Floyd. And Bob Anderson, in the next couple of minutes, please let me know how we're doing on time. But go ahead and answer about Bob Hertzberg this question. As supervisor, you'll be working with either current Sheriff Villanova or new Sheriff Luna. What will you do to improve your working relationship with the sheriff and avoid the challenges we've seen with the recent Sheriff's Department search of Supervisor Huell's home? Bob.
Yeah, I hated the search. I said it the other day, Conan Nolan, all those officers and the like, and it's horrible. But here's the issue. Here's the whole issue. People hire us to get the job done, not to fight amongst each other. The reason I was elected speaker unanimously, and how we always talk about this side of the aisle and that side of the aisle, I mixed everybody up. I sat next to Tom McClintock, who was one of the most conservative folks, because you listen to folks and you pay respect. And when Tom had a problem, I'd go into his office and I don't know this guy from a hole in the wall, the sheriff. I've seen him a few times in my life at various events, and I don't know him, but all this public criticism, what happens is with politicians, it ratchets up, everybody screams at each other, everybody has accusations. At the end of the day, the public wants to be safe. I've been endorsed by every single law enforcement agency that's endorsed. I just got endorsed today by the Highway Patrol and 10 other groups. And let me tell you, they want to be safe. Cut it out. Stop pointing fingers. Get the job done. Work with whoever the public elects to make things happen. That's my philosophy.
Okay, very good. Next question for Bob.
Would you like me to answer?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Go
No,
for it.
all right, thank you. Yes, no, actually, my opponent didn't say he hated what happened at Supervisor Kuehl's home on NBC. And I think that's because the sheriff is supporting him on the campaign trail. We know that they have, he's already said that my opponent is his preferred candidate in this race, that he wants to see him on the Board of Supervisors. And by having him on the Board of Supervisors, he'll be able to control and have a majority of the board's support. I think that what we need is accountability in the sheriff's department, which is why I've been working with Chief Luna on ideas for exactly that in our department, how we can work together to make sure that law enforcement has the resources they need to fight violent crime, but we also clean up the problems in the department that have been plaguing public trust, public dollars, and have taken people's lives. I serve on the Liability Trust Fund Claims Board and Oversight Committee, where I oversee the deputy involved incidents and the liabilities they cause contract cities and the county. And so I have witnessed firsthand the challenges that we have faced. And we need to make change. I am prepared to make that change because I'm already working on these issues, and I'm working with folks in the department to start to realize those changes. But we also need change at the top, and that's not going to happen if we continue the status quo.
Okay, very good. And then this next question is for you specifically, Lindsey, but I'll let Bob answer the last part of it. But the first part is about your efforts. And it's from Renee Weitzer, and she says, you appointed Nika Soon-Chong, daughter of the LA Times owner, to the Public Safety Commission for West Hollywood, who then voted to defund the sheriff. The West Hollywood Council also voted to defund the sheriff. Don't you see the crime occurring all over Los Angeles? Do you plan to reduce the budget of the sheriff?
Well, the premise of the question isn't quite accurate. The city council did not vote to defund the sheriffs. In fact, the LA Times, which endorsed me, quoted that in their endorsement. We didn't vote to defund the sheriffs. We actually have seen crime decrease in the past 2 months since we passed our vote in June. And that's directly from our sheriff's captain. What we need to do is make sure that we are investing in public safety as a whole and not asking our law enforcement officials to respond to calls for service for which they are not uniquely trained. That's why we invested also in security ambassadors. We also invested in building out a comprehensive behavioral crisis response team. The county has implemented a 988 plan throughout, and as has the rest of the country, but they only have a few dozen teams to respond to all 88 cities plus unincorporated area. We need to make sure that we're investing to have response and make sure that we're not asking our law enforcement officials to respond to those calls. And that's why we invested in the various options that the council passed in our budget.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm going to ask you, Bob, just the very last part of it, since you weren't involved on the West Hollywood.
Well, yeah, I'd like to say something about that because I can't stop who likes me and says good things about me. I didn't make that choice. I don't know the sheriff. I don't spend any time with him. I've seen him at a couple of events here and there. But you can determine when you do make choices. My opponent supports Gascon. My opponent supports and is very close with and coordinates with this new council person who is an abolitionist. They're out there with Jane Fonda doing their stuff. I've done a lot to deal with criminal justice reform, but the police organizations, whether it's the sheriff or the Santa Monica Police Department or San Fernando or Beverly Hills or any other ones, basically have chosen me because they know I act responsibly, you know what my history is. And the budget issue, there's 700 open positions because of this stupid fight between the supervisors, and they won't fund the sheriff. I want to fund those positions so people are safer in their communities.
Jill, I'd like to respond to that comment, if I may, since he mentioned support in my campaign, and I want to make very clear that thank you. We're out there with Jane Fonda actually fighting to protect the climate. I know that's not your agenda, but it is certainly mine. In terms of making sure that in terms of who's supporting me, I agree. We build diverse coalitions, but the reason that I supported change for the district attorney is because Jackie Lacey allowed a serial predator to remain on the loose in my community, who ended up taking people's lives, actually killing people in my community. She refused to prosecute. It took the sheriff's department taking the case to the feds in order to prosecute and find him guilty on 9 counts. I take public safety very seriously, and that's why I voted for change. And that's why we can't have what we've had for many years. And that's why I'm the change running in this race.
Okay.
They're
I'll give
changing
you-
the
I'll
board
give
where
you
you get
10
all
I'll
four
give you 10
supervisors.
words, Bob. I'll give you 10 words and then we'll wrap
Yeah.
this up. Okay, go ahead. 10.
Yeah,
10
well, she's made, those things are a long time ago. She's made the choice for Gascon, and she certainly has made the choice to support an abolitionist. Every day on social media, I don't see it, but people tell me about it, and that's a pretty big deal to me.
Okay,
And I'm not an abolitionist, and I've made that very clear.
All right, now that we're into the little bit of drama here, this next question is completely out of the blue and unusual, and so get ready for this one. I don't even remember who goes this time. I guess we can start with you, Lindsay, and it's from Julie Kwan, and Julie Kwan would like to know, what is your position on who can compete in women's sports? Go ahead, Lindsay.
I think all women should be able to compete in women's sports, and I certainly support Title IX, investing resources in women's ability to be able to do that.
I think she's asking for a little bit more on that. What do you mean by women? I think is what she's trying to ask here.
That wasn't the question, but if that's your question, I'm happy to address that.
Go right ahead.
So I think that all women, all people who identify as women should be able to participate in women's sports, and Title IX supports women's rights to participate in sports.
Okay, very good. And then Bob?
I don't know the answer to that question. I'm so focused on the details of public safety and homelessness and stuff. I just, if it comes to me, I'll do the homework on it, but I know it's complex. I know what it means. And I don't like speculating on stuff that I haven't done the homework on. I just don't know. It's not my.
Okay, very good.
It falls in the purview of what I've got to do in this job.
All right, let's move on then. From Susan Collins. It says, Senator Hertzberg recently used a process referred to as a gut and amend to try to pass Senate Bill 262, which has a misleading name, the Safe and Resilient Communities Act of 2021. The bill would have repealed cash bail, and essentially implemented the Zero Cash Bill Initiative, or Proposition 25, that was defeated by voters just a few months ago. Ms. Horvath, in her role as City Council Member West Hollywood, voted to cut funding to the Sheriff Department and remove 5 deputies from patrol during a time when WeHo was experiencing a 264% increase in crime. The WeHo mayor, along with residents and businesses, strongly voiced their opposition to this, but she moved forward anyway. My question for both candidates is, and then I'm skipping a few paragraphs here because she goes on quite a bit. My question for both candidates is, are you willing to change your prior method of governance and swear today that you will uphold the will of your constituents, even when it's in opposition to your personal belief or ideology? I think that's you first, Bob, and then then Lindsay.
I don't know what happened. I know John and Ken misrepresented what I did. I did do a gut and amend, and my gut and amend was pretty simple. What happens is, say, Jill, if you were to be arrested one day and there was a little bag on your driver on the seat, and the police arrested you and charged $100,000 bail, and the next day when they went to the Hertzberg Davis Forensic Science Center, the largest crime lab in the country, and it turned out it was baby powder and not an illegal substance, you would never have been charged. But you would have been charged with $100,000 bail, which would not have been refunded. The bill is 2 paragraphs. I got and amended an old bill, which was a mistake on my part, but it basically says that you get 90% of your money back. If charges aren't filed within 60 days, there's no purpose in bringing you the bill. It's a consumer bill to stop forfeiture. And the bail companies went crazy because they make a ton of money where they have no risk and no forfeiture. So this had nothing to do with Prop 25. I tried that. I worked my heart out to deal with equity and justice in the system to make sure poor people weren't impacted. If you're a public safety risk or a flight risk, stay in jail. That was a fight with people on the left and the right. So that's that. I just want to clarify that because that's the issue.
Okay, Lindsay, you had a different, she told a different story for you. Go ahead.
And the story it was, because it's not accurate. We in fact authorized the largest contract with the Sheriff's Department in the history of our city this past June. And so we didn't actually cut funding. We invested more funding in public safety in all the ways that I mentioned, not just our Sheriff's Department. That part is true. We also invested in unarmed security ambassadors in our commercial and residential areas to increase foot patrols and have more eyes on the streets, which helps to improve safety. We also invested in building out a behavioral crisis response team, which we need more of because the county doesn't have enough to provide the level of service that we expect in response to 988 as we would with 911. We have to make sure that we have the kind of responsiveness so people trust it. So it is that experience that's going to inform how I look at public safety. It is the experience that I have coming from local government, working together with neighbors and diverse coalitions, people who have different ideas than my own, to inform the decisions I will make as a supervisor. And I will make sure that this is not a coalition that only helps me win this race, but helps to inform all the decisions that I will make in the county, so we can work together to make the best decisions for everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Now we have about 8 minutes to go, and I'm told that I can look under the Q&A to see if there are more questions, but Bob, I don't see, I'm talking to Bob Anderson, but Bob Anderson, I don't see any questions in Q&A. Am I looking at the wrong place?
I've got those, Jill.
Oh, go ahead, please.
Okay. So, and thank you, Jill. You did a fantastic job, like always. Two questions actually that are both kind of follow-up questions. The first question is and hopefully, Bob, you will keep the 1 minute clock on both the candidates. So the piece that was done on yesterday on the unhoused or the homeless, it keeps going back. You know, that was on Fox News last night. It keeps going back to politicians keep saying, we need more housing, we need more housing, we need more housing. And we've all seen these crazy numbers, $750,000 a door, all this other stuff. All the people that they had, this was a very in-detailed report by Fox 11 on the unhoused in our neighborhood, in Sherman Oaks, on Ventura Boulevard, on Sepulveda, in our businesses' doorsteps. None of those people would qualify for housing as we know it, that's being built by the city or by the county. None of those folks have the ability to actually take a key, move into one of these units. They would destroy these units. These are people that are mentally ill or chemically dependent, beyond just giving them a key. So we keep hearing from politicians, we need to build more housing. We need to build more housing. The reality is we need to not build more or possibly build more housing, but we need to dig deeper onto where are these people who cannot get housing, who will not go into housing? What is going to be done with them? So Lindsey, if you want to start on that, and then Bob takes it after that.
I agree that it's not just a housing issue, though housing is a component of addressing our homelessness crisis. But what you're addressing, and I think what people understandably are most frustrated with, is the lack of visible resources, specifically for mental health and for addiction and recovery services. I've supported and authorized funding for both of these types of service in my own community, and would continue to do so as county supervisor. We need to locate mental health resources in each community, not in the hinterlands. So people have to go hours away to get the kind of mental health support that they need. Supervisor Hahn, who has endorsed me in this race, believes that we should open up, in fact, mental health urgent cares in communities. And I think that's a great idea, not just to help those who are most in crisis, but to remove the stigma of accessing mental health care. We also have to invest in drug treatment and drug treatment and recovery. And so it is not just housing that we need to create, but all of these different types of services. I've already identified a location in the Valley, a location in Santa Monica to provide those services, and I'm prepared to do so.
Yeah, Matt, look, it's a really perplexing problem. There's no question about it. you know, to me, first of all, you start with the fact that what we saw in that report is people think they have the right to stay on the street. As long as we have a place to put somebody, they don't have a right to stay on the street. And a lot of people think that you should stay on the street. I don't believe that. That's number one. Two, where do you put them? The people that are down and out economically, tiny homes has been unbelievably successful on government land, cheap, fast, $22,000 a copy. Which are critically important. Two, the federal government in the old days, to get rid of the one flew on the cuckoo's nest, big, huge facilities, mental health facilities, said you can't have more than 16 per unit. We have some of that here in the Valley, but the reality is we have to work together as a board of supervisors and park at the various agencies in Washington. Certainly Javier Becerra is a dear friend of mine. I chaired his campaign for Assembly in Congress, and get a waiver on that to be able to build bigger facilities for people that have mental health and drug addiction problems. I'm at 1 in 5 seconds. There's a lot more to go, but I don't want to go over my time.
So I'm just gonna ask a follow-up question on that. Bob, Lindsey, you're elected the next supervisor. How long will it take you to come to a solution to what we just talked about, the mentally disabled and the chemically dependent homeless, unhoused? How many years will it take you to convince the other folks to find a solution and to clean up our streets? Bob, and then Lindsey. Just give me how many years?
I don't think, I mean, when you say a solution, this one is the actual solution, having the job completely done. The other thing is to get the solution in place. I think you can do it in 6 months. I think it requires the state and federal government. I think it requires a new set of authorities that you can do through urgency legislation in Sacramento if you have the experience to know how to do that and to build it. You gotta, you know, you can't come from Sacramento top down. You've got to build the 88 cities together, which we haven't done in cooperation with the new mayor, put together the operation to pull it out and set you on a proper course. 30 seconds.
We need to immediately get teams out on the streets. The idea that you have only one for the entire region is absolutely absurd. We need to get more teams constantly contacting people on a daily basis. That in my experience in my community, by doing that, we've been able to get people off the streets in weeks and help them to realize, because we also work with agencies who hire people who themselves were formerly unhoused. So we build trust. We have people who can speak to the experience that they've had and the services that the county and the city provides. And it's that kind of trust that helps to get people off the streets and into the care that they need.
So Lindsey, how long will it take you if you're elected supervisor?
For some people, it will be a matter of days. For others, it may take weeks or months. But hopefully, I don't think that we need to call in the federal government to solve this problem entirely. This is something we can solve locally. Okay.
And then one last question. Look, our membership has been a little misled by past candidates being supported by the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, the DSA / Los Angeles. So the Democratic Socialists are very important. They do serve a purpose. They are the far left, and they do have a more of a left agenda. Are either of you supported or endorsed by the DSA Los Angeles? I'll start with Lindsey and then go to Bob.
No, and I have not sought their endorsement.
Okay. Bob?
Not a chance, but I would challenge anybody to go online and cross-examine that statement, because all the various folks that are part of it are all part of our team. And I think we're judged by who our supporters are.
I have not pursued their endorsement. And you know as well as I do that our former opponent was the one who was supported by DSA.
Who's that? I didn't know.
They supported Senator Stern in the June primary.
Yeah, but Sean got a dual endorsement. She was pushing like you crazy. That's what they told me in the Stern campaign, to do dual. And Patrick St. John's daughter was very involved in all that, pushing for you and upset that that was the case and pushing for a dual endorsement. But irrespective of that, when you look at Fernandez and everybody else you look at,
but that's not the case. I did not pursue their endorsement, would not pursue their endorsement. And I am committed to making sure that we have equity in our community. I think that you should focus on the facts in this race. This race is far too important for you to be pushing.
Well, that's all I said, was just look on social media and see who you're associated with. That's all. And those are the facts.
Okay. Thank you, guys. The one line, we're just going to close this with Bob asking Lindsey a question, and then Lindsey asking Bob a question, and you can take up to a minute and a half if you need it. If you don't need it, so I forget who I said to ask the question first, but whoever I said, go ahead and ask your opponent the question, and please don't talk over each other. Just let the other folk, you know. If they give you something that's really, really meaty and you want to respond, ask, and maybe Jill will let you respond.
Yeah, kind of a two-part question. The first is, you know, from what I understand from the mayor of West Hollywood, who's endorsed me, and you know, why is it that she's saying that, you know, in my experience, I'm somebody who works and brings people together. Your rhetoric is about bringing people together. But what she says in her statement, which surprised me, is that you're divisive and that you're somebody, it's my way or the highway. And in this campaign, I've seen the same thing where you've gone out and tried to intimidate union members who send to endorse me from your city and other supporters and stuff. What I'm interested in is when you talk about your ability to work together with people beyond getting elected at a bunch of organizations in terms of actually making stuff happen. That concerns me a lot, because that's so much of what this job is, and so much of what our current incumbent has failed to do.
Bob, what is your
question? Is about working together with people, and here we have the mayor of our city saying, I'm endorsing Hertzberg because this person is, her whole approach to everything she does, in my experience in working with her, it's my way or the highway, and she's not inclusive at all and very cliquey. So I'm interested in your response to that, and in terms of your ability to work together with folks. I'd love to hear it.
In our experience on the council, it's actually our mayor who has lived up to that description. But you're actually the one who's been arm twisting people. I've heard from unions who said that they were intimidated by you and your campaign for not endorsing you in June, so they had to endorse you for this race. You arm twist, you backroom deal. This is the pay-to-play politics that you're bringing from Sacramento, and we don't need it in the county. We need to keep Sacramento and SB 9 and everything that you represent out of the county. And we need to focus on local control, listening to our neighbors, and bringing people together, which is why I'm endorsed by over 100 local elected officials and community leaders who are working at the ground level to solve the problems that the state has failed to deliver on. We need somebody who actually has the experience listening to people, bringing people together, and bringing them into a conversation, not tearing people apart, not playing backroom politics. That we don't need any of that in LA County.
Lindsey, you want to go ahead and ask Bob your question?
So Bob, in the race for your vacated Senate seat, you chose to run your unqualified son against a woman.
Lindsey, you did something to your microphone.
Hear me better now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. In the race for your vacated Senate seat, you chose to run your unqualified son against a woman with a distinguished record of service, including serving our country as a Marine. You have used your Sacramento connections and pay-to-play politics to fund his campaign and arm twist endorsements for him, which is the very definition of nepotism. We've seen this kind of corruption before, and people are, from everything that I have heard on this campaign trail, tired of that kind of politics and dealing for personal gain. Why do you think this is the proper way to leave office?
My son's a beautiful person. He's brilliant. He works hard. He was homeschooled with me at a level that what I do in terms of government, I built the Capitol Institute, I'm building the Senate Academy now. He'll compete with anybody. And guess what? The voters get to decide. That's number one. Number two, the person that he's running against is basically almost the same age. And the two jobs that this individual had were basically a field rep in the area. She was fired on job number one. And in job number two, basically told colleagues of mine that I'm getting this job because the mayor's going to endorse me and it'll raise my money and I'll get elected. And she's been doing this for many years. We sat down, a bunch of us, Tony Cardenas, Liz Rebus, a number of us, we interviewed her, I talked to my staff about how she dealt with people at the Pride Parade and other events. And we just didn't feel that she had, all of us as legislators in the Valley who cared deeply about this place, had the qualification, had the temperament, had the skills to do the work. Yes, she served this country. I get it. But this notion that somebody who has to serve in government has to be an aide in this little club that exists, that everybody exists, and that there's no qualifications of anybody, you know, he's done pretty damn well. And now these endorsements and stuff, nobody just said, fine, we'll endorse him. These folks sat and questioned him, pushed him hard, asked a lot of tough questions, and I'm proud of him. And I you know, the voters will make a decision, and that's the most important thing.
All right, terrific. Jill, do you have any, you're muted right now, but do you have any follow-ups or any other questions?
Would each of you say something nice about the other person, please? So one sentence of something nice about the other person. Lindsey, you want to try that?
I admire the senator's long record of public service and his commitment to being a public servant.
Okay, very good. Bob?
I admire her hard work. I really respect hard workers, and you know, she works hard. I give her a lot of credit for that, and I always respect that. To me, that's a big thing.
Great, excellent. We'll stop on that super positive note.
I love it. You always bring sun when it's not shining. Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Lindsey. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Next month, make sure you tune in, because our debate is going to be with two people you've never heard of for one of the most important jobs in the city of Los Angeles, our city attorney. The two folks that are made the runoffs are going to be debating, and it's going to be very interesting. I'm really looking forward to it. So that's October 19th. That's the third Wednesday. And then in November, we've got a really terrific guest speaker, which I'm not going to tell you who it is. Might share it with you guys next month. Have a great night. Have a safe week. And thank you for tuning in.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Larry, Jules, Mr. Mayor, Maria, John, everybody. Jill.
Thank you.
Great job. Great job. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Good night.